So I was looking at this article. Again, Dave Kranzler, investmentresearchdynamics.com. This is Dave Kranzler's site. Again, Kranzler Research. Market insight that builds wealth. That's what they have, their little slogan. I do read you some of what he says a bit because a lot of times he's on point with what he's talking about. If he wasn't, I wouldn't be reading it to you. I'd throw it away in nonsense or whatever, just not worthy of my time or my subscribers' times, just on to something better. But he constantly has some good stuff. So he has this article here titled Trump will, he's not asking, he's saying Trump will let the bankers continue destroying the U.S. Now, I've always been of the mindset that, and I've said this a million times, it does not matter who the king is. It matters who the advisors to the king is. And as you can see, Trump has surrounded himself, for whatever reason, we don't know the reason yet, with banksters. Goldman Sachs especially, once again. So we'd have to ask, why wouldn't he, hang on a second, why wouldn't he let the bankers continue to destroy the U.S.? It's kind of out of control anyways, isn't it? So here's the article. About 30 days into Obama's first term, he says, I predicted that Obama will eventually go down as the worst president, then W, as in W. Bush, which is hard to do because W might be one of the worst presidents in U.S. history. I am making the same prediction of Trump. He'll go down as a worse president than Obama. I would surmise that a majority of Trump's voters voted for Trump as a vote against Hillary. Many of them have expressed relief that Trump is not as bad as Hillary. But, au contraire, the decision faced by voters was no different than choosing between liver cancer and pancreas cancer. Trump promised to drain the swamp. That was nothing more than a clever marketing slogan adopted by Trump's team to galvanize the majority of Americans who felt betrayed by the Democrats led by Obama, who, beginning on day one, backpedaled and repudiated the policy platform on which he campaigned. Anyone besides me recall these promises? I'll close Guantanamo Bay in the first 90 days, and I'll eliminate the use of executive orders, and I'll repeal all of Bush's surveillance executive orders. I'll add another one. If you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. I'll add another one. Read my lips. There will be no tax increases on anyone making $250,000 or less. Oh, except for that healthcare tax if you don't decide to buy healthcare. Right? And before you get angry about this guy's thoughts, let me finish because he gets into what makes a lot of sense. And believe me, I voted for Trump. I could not in any kind of good conscience vote for Hillary. Are you crazy? But again, the president is nothing more than the conductor of a train that is going down tracks that are predetermined, and you cannot get off the tracks because it's going from start to finish down that track. Plain and simple. The Democrats, I know, have the memory of a fruit fly because every one of them seems to have a case of selective memory. Perhaps Obama's most memorable promise, aside from universal health care, Obama's version of which is collapsing before he leaves office, by the way, was his vow to clean up the corruption on Wall Street. Of course, his Attorney General appointment for most of his presidency was Eric Holder, a career Democratic operative who worked at the Covington Burling law firm. Covington Burling is Wall Street's bodyguard, so to speak, in Washington, D.C. Most people have never even heard of Covington Burling, which is how it is intended to be, because it is the real-life version of Bendini, Lambert, and Locke, the infamous mob law firm in John Grisham's The Firm. A little trivia. Eric Holder, as Attorney General for the District of Columbia in the late 1990s, drafted the pardon letter for Mark Rich, the infamous tax evader who fled to Switzerland, signed by Bill Clinton. Pardon, right? As he walked out of Oval Office for the last time. Clinton's reward was carnal knowledge of Rich's wife, Denise. While the politicians promised that Dodd-Frank, the Dodd-Frank Act, and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau and other legislative reforms had made America safe from Wall Street, in fact, the opposite is true. The subprime mortgage bubble has been replaced by nearly equally as large, if not more insidious, subprime auto debt bubble. With the help of Obama's government-backed mortgage reforms, Wall Street banks have spawned another subprime mortgage and housing bubble. Derivatives reforms did nothing other than enable banks to hide their criminal use of these highly profitable weapons of mass financial destruction. In other words, the only cleaning up that was accomplished over the last 8 years by Obama was removing the last remnants of transparency from Wall Street's operations, as all these so-called reforms have enabled the too-big-to-fail banks to conduct their fraudulent activities further off balance sheet, i.e. cooking the books. So Obama has left his successor with 100% more government debt, a collapsing healthcare system that is unaffordable for most other than corporate fat cats, and the recipients of free Medicaid, and of course for the congressmen who are exempt from Obamacare and have their health care paid for by the public anyways, and a financial bubble that dwarfs the bubble that was popping when Obama took office. The Wall Street problem for this country is going to get worse under Donald Trump. In some ways, it makes sense. Trump's casino business was a product of Drexel, Burnham, Lambert's junk bond juggernaut. I know this because I traded all of the old Trump junk bonds, which, by the early 1990s, were trading at distressed levels. Trump is a real estate guy, and real estate guys love debt more than they love their mothers. And Wall Street loves nothing more than to underwrite that debt, loved by guys like Donald Trump. In other words, in some ways, Trump is a slave to Wall Street as much as, if not more than, his predecessor. Note that among the first words out of Trump's mouth when he claimed victory was a promise to take deficit spending to new levels in order to build out the U.S. infrastructure. There's only one way to finance deficit spending. You got to borrow more, right? Circling back to Trump's promise to drain the swamp, I think most of us assumed it not only meant getting rid of the career politicians like Hillary Clinton, who had become completely controlled by corporate/Wall Street interests, but also getting rid of the elements that controlled them. Most notably, the Wall Street bankers ensconced throughout all levels of the Obama government. But Trump's appointments, for the most part, suggest that Trump is merely draining the swamp of blue swamp monsters and is replacing them with red swamp monsters. And in reality, Wall Street monsters do not distinguish between blue and red. That's because the god they worship is green, like that green dollar bill. Sullivan and Cromwell is Wall Street's most highly regarded legal operative in New York City. Need any more be said, he says. And some of the comments from people reading this. Soon America will be like Russia. You want health care card? You pay bribe to local politician. You want good apartment? You pay bribe to local politician. People in America have no idea how bad it can hit. I hope America never experiences these corruptions like we do in Russia. Next one. And the guy replies to him, we have our own politicos who do a very, very good job of grabbing the populace by the ankles and turning them upside down and shaking every last nickel out of them. I don't think America is that far behind what you have described. He says it was FDR said a traitor to his class. It was said of FDR that he was a traitor of his class. But at least the prospect of mushroom clouds with the election of Trump have been stayed for a while. Yes? Anyways. So, I can't poke any holes in what this guy, Mr. Dave Kranzler here, has said. I can't poke not even one thing he says. Can I say, well, but such and such. I can't even come up with anything. I mean, he's right. And I've been covering every appointment that Trump has made. Why is he picking that Wall Street guy? Not only that, he's from Goldman Sachs. Oh, come on. And remember when he was floating the name for Jamie Dimon to come around, possibly as, I don't know if it was what he wanted him for now. Was it Treasury Secretary possibly? And Jamie Dimon's response was, I wouldn't be interested in that anyway. So basically he got taken out of the loop. Jamie Dimon? And then I did the video after that where he's been selected, recently anyways, as some kind of, it's not a government position, but it's like an esteemed focus group, something or another that's led by a person, and he was selected to be this, but it was mentioned that Trump had, I can't remember what it was now. Trump, spoke very highly of Jamie Dimon. He's a very, successful man. He's the smartest, one of the smartest men. I'm thinking, while simultaneously, Jamie Dimon, J.P. Morgan's settling with the Security and Exchange Commission, and is that who we want running our country? Again, it's not the king or president; it's the advisors, and the advisors have their own agenda, and whatever their agenda is, they just have to whisper in the president's ear. And when they start to whisper things like, terrorist attack could happen if we don't do this, terrorist attack could happen if we don't pass that draconian legislation, and Mr. President, if our intelligence is true, and trust me, it really is, super duper serial. I'm super serial. It's true. If you don't believe us and this happens, that's on your, Congress could impeach you for doing nothing on our intelligence. We gave you the intelligence. You don't want that on your shoulders, do you, Mr. Trump? Well, no, but I don't trust you guys. What do I do? Because if I don't do it, you guys might actually carry it out and blame it on terrorists. I'm between a rock and a hard place, right? You could easily find yourself there. So, again, I can't poke a hole in any of what this man said. And even though we've seen this, even if we knew in advance of the election, in other words, 1 week before Election Day, before November 9th, right? We knew all of Trump's appointees. We knew who he was going to go for. And all these Wall Street guys I've talked about, we knew it. There's not a chance in the world I would have even thought about it. Well, maybe I should vote for Hillary. It would still be hands down, I'm voting for Trump. Why? He's not a politician. I've looked at what that man has said over the years. I'm talking decades even. And he's had the same mindset. And it's a good mindset to have. So on one hand, I hear this loud and clear, Mr. Kranzler, and I get it. Believe me. But I'm hoping that Trump is as smart as he is, in politics as he is in business, real estate, and is doing this for some kind of epic reason we just don't know about. And I hope it's a good reason. We have to sit back and watch. Obviously, we have no choice now anyways. But let's see what happens. I mean, they may have decided, you know what? We're definitely letting him get in the White House. We're not going to stop him. He is going to preside over the bankruptcy of the United States of America because he is an expert at taking companies out of bankruptcy like his own and then doing well with them. And this is a big company. We need to deal with that bankruptcy. We'll put him in charge. So as Mr. Kranzler is saying, would he not go down as the worst president ever? The bankruptcy of America essentially has happened under his watch. Don't tell us that Obama handed it to him because we said that Bush handed that to Obama and we didn't give him any slack, so we're not going to give Trump slack. No, we don't want to hear it. He's in charge. He did it, Easily can do that. They're going to make whatever president was going to be president now look bad because this stuff has to be dealt with. We got some major problems, major deficits, and he wants to come out and spend an enormous amount more. Again, putting America back to work again, fixing the infrastructure, I get it. And the only way this works is when you get rid of the Federal Reserve and you completely stop borrowing money into existence and you just print the money into existence. No interest attached. When you do that, like Abraham Lincoln did and they killed him for it, you take the power away from the banksters, the rich oligarch families, and their owned central banks, the central banks they own, such as the Rothschild family. So you take that power away. Now you have a government that can never have a problem budgeting anything because it can just print the money it needs to pay for all services. If you want to see a fantastic documentary by Mr. Bill Still, it is called The Secret of Oz. I've said this numerous times in my videos. If you haven't seen it, you have to see it. It's so simple. It's the answer to everything. Everything you pay property tax. I'm looking at houses, like I said, not that I'm ready to move out right now. I'm not nowhere near that. But I'm still kind of gauging. I want to see what's out there. Is there stuff in my area with like 5 acres or more? Like, is that even a possibility? Can I even afford that? So I'm like poking around on Zillow, just looking. And there's a section. Click on here to see the price that this house has had over the last however many years. Listings, did it sell, how much it sold for, all that stuff, and tax assessments. What have they been each year? And you'll see houses $2,000, $3,000 a year for taxes. And then you'll see some $5,000, $7,000, $8,000 a year taxes. Of course, a little bit bigger property, much nicer house. But the point is, there would be no property taxes. There'd be no kind of taxes anymore when government can print, not borrow, print money into existence. That is the key. But when you take that away, you take away the bankers' power. And the banksters have massive power. As you can see, they're surrounding Trump. So the chances of the Federal Reserve going away, or staying even, and just printing money without interest, is pretty much slim to none. Unless Trump wants to wind up dead the next day, because the bankers always kill the president who implements that policy. As you will find out by watching the documentary, The Secret of Oz. He must play ball. Take care.